We just came to a new farm. We just bought this, oh heck, we closed, I don't know, in the winter sometime. It has the making to be a great farm. We'll get all this mulched out, and then once we see how much area we have, then we'll determine what food we're gonna put where and what I think our best strategy is for wins and all, and stands and all that kind of stuff. We'll get into more deer strategy on that. But first things first, let's see how big a field we can get out of this. This field is good, but we need to make it a little bit bigger. Wherever the tightest pinch is, that's where I cut it off and then do something green on the other side. So this is it. We're basically just starting from scratch. And these are the fun projects when you get something like this. You just don't know. To me, it's just like Christmas morning when you come to a new farm. It's like you can open this package and you're just surprised to see what's in there. Hey everyone, welcome back to another day of chaos here in southern Iowa. We just came to a new farm. We just bought this, oh heck, we closed, I don't know, in the winter sometime. It's just a 135 acre piece, and I didn't really know anything about it. It had a couple of places where they had food plots on it, but that's kind of the first thing I do. I kind of see which places I can get food in, and then look at the soil maps, kind of see, okay, which ones, what kind of food, clover, turnips, corn, beans, anything, say which one are more conducive to producing something decent, and go from there. So we just bought this tube. I'm gonna bring that down there, and we'll get that in to fix that one crossing going up to the top. Then there's a couple of fields in here. Now, it looks like they're kind of small from what we can see, but looking at the aerial maps from a couple of years ago, it looks like these fields were a lot bigger and they just grown in a bunch. So yesterday was the first time we went in, and some of that stuff up there, it's almost too thick that deer probably wouldn't hardly even walk through it. So I brought just a Vail mulcher right now. If we need the saw, if we need more equipment, I can run, take my truck back and get some more equipment. But I think right now I can just take the mulcher and kind of start clearing that out, open it up, see what kind of food plots we can get in there, how big we can get it. We got a tractor with the mower. I got the fertilizer cart for corn. Just kind of staged everything here. We mowed out a little spot, a little landing here to get everything parked. And so this is it. We're basically just starting from scratch. And these are the fun projects when you get something like this. You just don't know. To me, it's just like Christmas morning when you come to a new farm. It's like you can open this package and you're just surprised to see what's in there. So you just hope that, you know, we'll get some food out here and get some feeders in here just to kind of get some inventory, and hopefully there'll be something good in here. But even if it doesn't really bother me, even if there isn't the first year. So keep that in mind. You know, when you get a new farm, it's not like, hey, I'm gonna go in there and there's gonna be a 200-inch deer on it right off the bat. If there was a 200-inch deer, it likely wouldn't have been sold in the first place. So you always gotta think of it as, hey, I just come in expecting the worst and hoping for the best, just like a lot of things. But, you know, we're gonna put our spin on it and take a look at it, and there's some things I definitely do different on the farm than has been done in the past. So when I look around here, it's just the right kind of area. It's a good mix of timber to open, and around here, what I really like about this area is, it sounds kind of funny, but it's not great soil in this area. If you look around, it's mostly cattle country. It's, you know, a lot of hilly stuff and ditches and creek bottoms, and you see lots of timber in here. So really, the land value for farming is not great right here, but that's exactly what I want, because there'll be patches of dirt everywhere that you can get food plots in and stuff. You know, obviously there's ag in the area, but like right next to me, it's mostly cattle stuff. So when we have the only food, you know, we're gonna pull all those deer in from there, you know, from the surrounding areas, and it's got water, timber, everything they need, except for a lot of food. So that's what we're trying to do to this small piece here. And when you have all this area to work with not a lot of food in the area, we're gonna pull a lot of these deer from a big circle around here. So we're gonna kind of take you right through the first things that we're trying to do. When I came in here yesterday, we could get our ranger across the creek, but I was like, nah, we want to bring tractors and stuff up here. We need to probably get a tube in it. So I went stop and got a tube. We just strapped it onto the back of the Ranger. Like I said, Donnie's down there in the skid steer. Do I hear him? Wow, it's the first time Donnie's been around. We don't hear him talking. So we'll get that down there and get up and see what we got on the other side for food plots. Okay, right up on top of this farm, there's a little patch of CRP, and you can see it's got some blue stem and some big blue and little blue, some Indian grass. Don't see, well, there's a little bit of switch down there too. But this is one that if we would have gotten, you know, our other stuff done earlier, we would have came over and worked on this. So this is a project we'll start next year, is taking care of this grass up here. We'll we'll burn it again and spray for, see how the cool season grasses, everything that's green in there is cool season grasses that are kind of, we'll take care of that next year and let all that switch and blue stem in there. A lot of times you think that, hey, you got to reseed that stuff. That seed is in there. All you got to do is get rid of that cool season grass and burn it and spray it, and that stuff will come up thick as it ever was. So down in that bay over here, looks like a spot where they had mowed. There's nothing, just kind of weeds in there, but that is one place we'll put a food plot in there that goes down into the bay over in there, kind of right up on top here. But the first time I drove in here last winter, there was like a 140-inch buck standing right in there and ran out. So you know that, you know, if they're using an old field like that, that was just some regrowth and stuff, and the only clover I saw in there was some crimson in there. It had a good road system in it already. Looks like somebody had dozed it out years ago, so we just came and mowed them and widened them out here. So I even look at this. This is a field down here. It's just kind of weeds now, but this is going to be a good food plot down here. I mean, it's not that big. It's probably only a couple acres, but it's been super dry this year. I mean, it's been the driest year since I've lived here in 20 years. But we may just no-till corn into this and come and spray it, because I think it's going to hold more moisture. I think this year we're going to be in trouble for moisture. When you talk in April, we had like 1.5 inches, and I think our average is like 7 inches. And then I mean, we've had like no rain all year, like, you know, one time. So since this is low in water, it's probably the wettest field on the whole farm, that maybe, since I want to get, the number one thing to do is try to get grain in some of these places, and just hope for fall rain and get fall food plots in. But it'll rain eventually, I guess. All right.
It might fit.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it did.
I think it is. I think it's gonna, but it's just, you'll see.
So many times we put these tubes in, they make them way too short.
Exactly.
You know, it's not even if you have small equipment, it starts eroding from the sides, and you end up within 2 years, you got about this much to drive over, and even your Rangers and stuff are falling off the sides of it. Let's see, we probably go your way a little bit, maybe. All right. That's where we originally got the skid steers, where for a lot of it was every time it would rain to fix those crossings so you can get up on them. And it's like, you learned over the years, you said spend $100, get a tube, fix it right, never have to do it again. I can probably get we could probably get a load of rock for the ends too. I just didn't want that bunch of mud to come down and plug it up right away.
Well, when I get this filled, I'll put that up so this rock can come in, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to mess with this too much.
Yeah, it's got some good base rock in there. Okay, I'll let Donnie just cover this up. That's the field that we need to do the work on, but we have some other fields up this way that you can get too easy. Let's go take a look at those. He's covering that up. All right, since we only have one skid steer here, let's let Donnie bury that tube, and we'll go look at these other food plots I ran up here yesterday, and I was looking at some of this stuff. Right now you can see like this is basically a weed patch, but you can see all this like regrowth. It's very sparse wheat in here and the crimson clover. So I think a lot of these fields that were in here were in either for cattle at one time, or somebody had them for food plots or something, but it's more weeds than anything. But you can see all the little like cherry tops of that crimson clover in there. I don't see any other clovers in there, but just a little bit of crimson and wheat, and it looks like just regrowth wheat because it's not in rows really, and it's just kind of sparse random out here. But this is the perfect food plot. I mean, a nice hilltop. We'll obviously take soil samples of these and see what kind of fertilizer we need and lime and all that kind of stuff, because you don't want to waste your time and money on a dozer and stuff pushing it out, else you get in there and it's just, you know, terrible clay or something that you ain't gonna get anything to grow on anyway, and you just wasted your money on all your dozer work and stuff. So you always want to check those maps and see what you got for soil before you do about anything. But this is going to be a nice food plot up here. So you always want to look on these fields and see. This is when I drove up here around here yesterday marking these fields out, and you can see, you know, how big this field actually was at one time. and it looks like there was maybe something down there. Like this is where I went around is the top here, but you can see all the way back into here that at one time it was open. So those are the things that we used our mulcher for, and we can open them back up. It really, literally, it can take an hour and I have this thing double in size. But this is kind of what you're looking for. See, this map is north and south, but this food plot is east and west. And that's really what you're looking for, especially if you're going to doze one in, just so you get all day sun on the thing from east and west. If you have it north and south, especially in the timber like that, you get at noon or whatever, you get a little bit of sun in the middle of the day, and the rest of the time, part of it's shaded up. So it's very important getting stuff to grow is you need that sunlight on it. So we're fortunate that this field up here is already east and west, but certainly if you're ever dozing one, pay close attention to that you doze them in east and west so you get maximum sun on them. But look how thick this farm is, even on the edges. I mean, you can't even see into it. All right, so if you look at this field up here, it's an awesome spot. Kind of like you're up on top of the whole highest spot on the farm here. You can see some other farms in the off in the distance. You can see it's just cattle farms. Like I said, this whole area around here is not a lot of agriculture. I mean, there's some, but not like normal Iowa. And this is one of those trees here. I've got my chainsaw. I'm just going to cut this down right now, and we'll take the mulcher and get the stump out of here. You know, so many times I see food plots and people like leaving the trees in them. They think it looks nice or whatever, but there's really no reason for them. I mean, none, other than maybe to try to direct deer around one side or the other. So many times people are like, oh, it's a good spot for a stand. Well, you're not gonna have a stand right in the middle of your field. I have to tell you that right now, because there can be deer anywhere and there's no good wind for it. So you always wanna be on the side. And a smaller food plot like this, we're trying to get the maximum amount of food out of the area that we have available to us here. With that tree there, the roots are gonna be out to here. You're never gonna get anything to grow anywhere inside the canopy of that thing. So, and even between here and the side over there, the trees on the edge, those roots will be zapping your moisture and nutrients out of the field on this side. That'll be zapping from this side. You never get anything here. You're better off taking all of them out and finding pinch points. And like we always talk about, we want to have like grains to green, and especially if we can get like something big enough in here to get corn or beans, and then you got like a pinch point across here. We'd even a lot of times we'll just put a fence across here and leave an opening in the middle. Because a lot of times if you have a stand right on the edge, we'll find a spot, if we're going to do that, we'd find a spot where there was a tree that you can get a stand in, and if there's absolutely nothing, then we can always put a redneck up. But I don't want them like right next to me. You know, a lot of times it's hard to move and stuff like that unless you're in a redneck, but if you're in a tree stand, it's hard to move. So a lot of times these pinch points, like these smaller, you know, food plots like this, I'll just put a fence in here and put a opening in the middle just to kind of keep them in the middle, like basically where you feel comfortable shooting. You know, that's where you want them. And a lot of times we'll put a rubbing post there or something to get them to stop, you know, to stop for you right there. But this tree like this has got to come out. I'll just hit it with the saw, and we'll get that stump out with that Vail mulcher. That's what's so nice about having those mulchers. But this field is actually pretty big. You start looking at it, it goes all the way up around this corner and stuff. And that's why I kind of wanted corn in this one, even though it's not very wide in a lot of places, but we can get it fairly wide here. We'll take that mulch and we'll take out all those Russian olive bushes and stuff all the way around here. Like I said, when I looked at the aerials of this thing, like right now, it's not that big, but I look at older aerials like from 10 years ago, it was all open, and now it's just growing up a bunch. There's another tree there we'll take out. We're gonna take out these bigger trees and all the blackberry bushes and stuff on the edges, you know, get as much room as we can. But I think like if we could get like 5 or 6 acres up here, I would do corn up here. Again, we'll look at the soil maps and make sure that it's soil that's conducive to grow corn even. And then we can always just pour the lime to it. We can pour the nitrogen to it, fertilizer. We can get it to grow as long as the soil is decent enough. So I think a lot of this stuff I can just bring my mower up here with a tractor and mow just a lot of this grass down. But we'll definitely need the Vail mower or the mulcher to get stumps out of these that we cut and to all these blackberry bushes and all these type of things. You'd never run over all those Russian olives and all that little stuff with a mower. Obviously you couldn't do that. So that's where the Vail mulcher just comes in handy. But we're gonna take the mower and the mulcher and come in here and see how big we can get this food plot up here. But I just love the layout of the land. Like I said, I came and looked at this the first time. It was like, hey, this has all the makings, even though it's small, 130 acres. It has the makings to be a great farm. You can pull some big deer in here and hold them in here. It's thick enough to hold deer in here. And definitely with the food and everything else, it doesn't have to be that big. And I think this one has a lot of potential. As long as this is decent soil, not a bunch of clay knobs up here, we should be good. We'll hop in the Ranger and go back around and take a look around the corner, but this thing kind of has some different shapes and stuff to it, which is really conducive to having different food sources. Like you could have a big piece of corn here, and wherever the tightest pinch is, that's where I'd cut it off and then do something green on the other side. And like I said, if it's tight enough you can shoot across, great. If not, we'll just put a fence in there with an opening in the middle to bring the deer where you want them. But we always talk about you want that green to grain transition, something from corner beans into your clovers or turnips or any of those type of fields like that. And just something that bends and winds around like this has very conducive to that, making those pinch points and spots where there's transition points between fields. So we'll look at this thing first. We'll get all this mulched out, and then once we see how much area we have, then we'll determine what food we're going to put where and what I think our best strategy is for winds and stands and all that kind of stuff. We'll get into more deer strategy on that. But first things first, let's see how big a field we can get out of this. Yeah, it looks good. We just get a little rock on here, I suppose, huh?
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's got to take a while to dry. I tried mixing some wet in it, and it's.
Yeah.
But you want at least that over it. And another rain will help it.
Right. Yeah. Rain.
We'll get the mulch.
Good luck on that. Yeah. We got that up there. I got just like one tree just cut with a chainsaw. We'll probably have to go maybe get the grapple to move. It's a pretty big tree. But I need to go get that mulcher right now and just start forming that field up there, how big it's going to be. So if you want to drive that up there, well, I'll just meet you up there and we'll swap it over to the mulcher and we'll go from there. This looks good though. You what one guy and one Vail mulcher can do in literally less than an hour. I mean, this field was good, but we need to make it a little bit bigger. The biggest thing is that just when everybody else runs out of food, that's when you have to have it. And especially this plot here, because you always want that green to green transition. And if we got that other end of that, if we can get that big enough to grow a nice cornfield in, opening up the other side that I just did, and now this side, I can go with two different greens in here. Like have a clover on one side, some for like all summer and hunting season, but then also turnips and like an analogic perfect 10. That'd be more for late season. You can plant later. So that's kind of the key, is to kind of have all different food sources, know, that they're going to want at every time of the year. Don't just focus on hunting season, you know, what looks good at that time. You got to really know what they're wanting and what they're eating. You know, in the spring, summer, everything. Give does, fawns, bucks, give every deer, you know, what they want for every time of the year. Okay, first order of business is getting the AC fixed in here. Holy cow, it's gonna be 100 degrees in there. Well, that was a good start. I mean, just for a couple hours, get that tree down, kind of getting the shape of it. Looks like I maybe take that Russian olive out over there. And what I'd like to do is have this in a grain field. And I don't know if we get a corn this year because it's not that it's too late at all, it's just too dry. But, you know, we could probably just mow this down and drill beans into this big side over here. And like I was saying, you kind of want something for every time of the year. People always just kind of focus on hunting season, you know, what's going to be there. And if you give them something for every time of the year and something that they need, then they're going to stay put right there. The hard part is getting those 3-year-olds to 4 years old. I mean, at 3, they're getting pushed around, and normally, you know, older bucks on top of them. And those are the ones that are dumb. You know, you can rattle at them, they come running, you know, they're out chasing does around. That's what you see most of the time is the 3-year-olds. And that's the ones that you lose because you get a superstar 3-year-old, they can be 170-inch deer. You don't blame anybody for shooting them, but those are the kind that have the potential to go to 180, 190, and even 200. So if you can hold those type of deer, you know, the younger ones on your farm all the time, where that kind of becomes their home area, especially in the wintertime. You know, really focus on January, February, March, holding deer there. And then April and May and stuff, when everything greens up, you know, then they've already kind of established this is their home area, as long as you still have food there in that March and April and May time frame. But once you get deer, if you can get that 3-year-old through, once they get to 4, they're traveling less, and then once they get to 5, they're basic, you got them. Because at 5, their home core area becomes so small. Most of the time they live 90% of their lives on a 40. And so, you know, you can have a smaller piece like this and be holding, I mean, numerous mature bucks if you can hold them here at 2 and 3 and 4 years old. That's the way. If you want to shoot a big one, you have to get them to 5 and older even. And you got to have the food, you got to have something, water, food. You shouldn't say something, I should say you got to have everything. Like I said, that 2% gain here and a 2% gain here and a 3% gain here. You know, all those little pieces that you do, put them all together, and all of a sudden you got a big 20, 30% better chance of having them on your farm than a neighbor. So that's what we're doing right here on this farm. Thanks for tuning in to our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe if you haven't, but we're doing stuff like this every single day. We're doing stuff like this, and we'll go through the whole season. And like I always said, you know, we'll get through the food plot and all the strategy stuff here by another month or so, and then we'll really start pinpointing and focusing on specific deer once we see what they're kind of doing into the end of June and into July, which ones, if the ones we thought were going to be blow up into big ones, if they actually do, then we're going to really start doing a little bit more strategy, and we can just give us the best opportunity to harvest that deer right away. You know, that's your best chance, first 10 days of the season, really, for me. They're not broken up yet, the neighbors haven't shot them yet, you know, all kinds of different reasons, but you want to have them there all summer and have a good strategy for October 1st. So we'll get to all that, but once again, thanks for watching, and hit subscribe, and we'll keep bringing stuff to you like this every week.